theme from NYPD Blue, and it indeed was an outstanding day of back-to-back belly-to-belly arrests that were made as a result of crimes committed down in the armpit of the cesspool of crime, the belly of the beast, the subways of New York City that are getting worse and worse and worse, and was a direct result of what they call the NYPD surge in the subways that was created back on October 22nd, just days before the general election. You may have remembered for governor, Kathy Crime Wave Hochul was failing and falling quickly. In the polls, it was neck and neck with Congressman Lee Zeldin, who was riding a law and order single issue to what appeared to be an upset and becoming a law and order governor. Now that you look back at it, how desperately we need that now. But Kathy Crime Wave Hochul hooked up with Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, and she said, Eric, I want to give you money out of the state. I don't know where we're going to get it from, but I'm going to give it to you in advance. To hell to what the state controller says, Tom DiNapoli. We don't do this, I may have to all of a sudden look for a job in the private sector, and I've never worked in the private sector. So I'm giving you an additional 1,200 overtime shifts per day that the state is going to reimburse the city for to have cops in the subways. And we saw the results of that surge on the final day. I told you the overtime, all that money, canceled as of June 20th. But 4 transit cops who are part of a team that goes out there each and every day, they're plainclothes unit, they're not in uniform, all of a sudden nabbed the killer who had jumped a turnstile Monday and then turned around hours later and collared a slasher who had slashed 3 women in the subway. Let me first start with the heroes of the NYPD. Look, they're all heroes. They deserve our recognition and attention because they've been handcuffed by our state legislature, handcuffed by the DAs, handcuffed by our mayor, not permitted to go out and do their jobs the way they were trained. But these 4 plainclothes cops, officers Ivan Nunez, Jasmine Roman, Bonnie Wong, and their sergeant, Clyde Jasmine. They spotted the suspect, Claude White, a homeless man who had stabbed a guy on the subway to death Saturday, hopping over the turnstile at the Lexington Avenue station at 125th Street, the 4, 5, or 6. Dope fiend hell over there as you go upstairs near the old Pathmark and you see them all strung out. Fentanyl, heroin. It's like Dawn of the Dead zombies. And they hop in and out of the subway system like they own it. It's the Irish sweepstakes. Luckily, in this case, they nabbed the killer. And the eagle-eyed cops recognized him from a department wanted poster and had him in cuffs by 10:40 a.m. That was great. Now you say to yourself, who is this person that they grabbed and charged with this heinous crime? Well, you're looking at a guy named White. 33-year-old homeless guy, charged with murder, killing Bronx resident Tavon Silva, who cops say he attacked after the two argued on a southbound number 4 train as it pulled into the 14th Street Union Square station in Manhattan. Meantime, you have to look at the rap sheet of this guy White, because it wasn't his first attempt to prove that he was an enemy of society. He had been previously locked up 6 times, including in a June arrest, for trying to rob a Manhattan bank by passing a note to the teller demanding money. Gets arrested, turned in, and what does Alvin Bragg's DA's office do? Turn him loose, like they have so many times before. Well, anyway, these 4 plainclothes cops, Officer Ivan Nunez, Jasmine Roman, Bonnie Wong and their Sergeant Clyde Jasmine are back at it 24 hours later. The same team of cops were on an East Harlem street when they spotted Kamel Rideout, 20-year-old thug who had slashed 3 random women in Manhattan over the weekend. When he was arrested, Rideout was standing on the corner of East 122nd Street and 2nd Avenue, eating a bag of chips he bought from a bodega after being thrown off of an MTA bus for what? Fare evasion. It happens over and over. So let's look at this mutton scale. Let's look at what he was charged with right out. Charged with 3 counts of felony assault for slicing the 3 women, one of whom was cut so badly she needed a tourniquet to stem the bleeding before she was taken to Bellevue Hospital. Let's look at Rideout's rap sheet. It includes a past charge of attempted rape, assault, and criminal mischief, and he has a history of mental illness. Are we shocked? Are we surprised, ladies and gentlemen? All these emotionally disturbed persons roaming the streets who need to be in Kirby's psychiatric. Right there on Randall's Island, you see the white, huge towers, 70% empty. It's a state-run facility. Kirby Psychiatric for the criminally insane. Why is 70% of the rooms empty? Asked Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb. They should be filled to capacity with all those who have committed crimes, who are in previous occasions when they were brought in by the police for a psychiatric observation, proved to be criminally insane and then cut loose by Alvin Bragg or other DAs. And in this particular case, clearly, this guy belongs, if not in jail upstate, at Kirby Psychiatric. And, well, the transit police used these 2 series of arrests back-to-back and belly-to-belly to highlight what they claim has been the benefit of the additional overtime ordered by Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb to save her failing campaign back on October 27th. Of 2022, and it was just days before the election. She was fading fast, and this rescued her from what would have been a certain loss, and oh God, we certainly needed Congressman Lee Zeldin to become the law and order governor. But they were touting it. They said, hey, look, because of this surge, we've had a 52% increase in arrests, 57% increase in summonses, 64% boost in quality of life tickets, and 143% increase in fare evasion summonses so far this year compared to the same period in 2022. What they didn't tell you is that the overtime was over as of yesterday, as I had warned you weeks and weeks ago. The 3 shifts of extra overtime that some of these cops would have to do on a regular basis, and it was being enforced by the department at the highest levels due to Kathy Crime Wave Holcomb funding it to get reelected. Although Tom DiNapoli, the state controller, said, where the hell are you getting the money from? She said, Tom, don't worry about it. Let me get elected first, then we'll figure this out. We'll use mathematical technology, which she's used. But let me focus on the plainclothes cops again. Officer Ivan Nunez, Jasmine Roman, Bonnie Wong, and their Sergeant Clyde Jasmine. Look, there are a lot of other cops out there doing their job every day. They're going into the belly of the beast. Every day they go into the slime and grime of the subways. We were told back when Eric Adams, swagger man with no plan, mayor of the illegal aliens, you remember he went to give a speech about anti-Semitism in Athens, Greece? And then he said he'd have to take 3 days to go to, Bahrain, Dubai, one of those fake, phony, fraudulent Persian Gulf Empire states to learn how the security is run for World Cup. Even though we'll never have a World Cup here, the World Cup games that will be played are at MetLife Stadium. Last time I looked, that's Jersey. That was an excuse. But right before he had left, he had this huge press conference with a phalanx of people, sycophants, toadies, and lackeys, zombies behind him. Why they need all these people when they have a press conference, when generally it's 1, 2, maybe 3 people who speak because they want to show they're rolling strong. And he swore that there would be mental health teams patrolling with police officers in the subways. He swore that they would be removing the homeless and bringing them to shelters. Eric Adams swore that they would take the emotionally disturbed persons for psychiatric observations, and then they would find room in the state psychiatric facilities that are 70% empty. None of that has happened. Nobody is calling on him and saying, hey, Eric Adams, another press conference, you sold everybody wolf tickets, and meantime trying to crawl out of his hole out in Southampton and try to revive his failed career as governor. Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo will not answer the question that I and a few others have posed. Andrew, ascendeme tu siu provinos facin, like your father Mario you are. But when you first were elected as governor up in Albany, there were 30,000 beds dedicated in psychiatric facilities around the state of New York for the care of these emotionally disturbed persons. By the time you left of your own accord, you said, or were forced out, or whatever revisionism you want to believe, there were only 3,000 beds. Why the hell are there not those 27,000 additional beds to care for those who are in desperate need of mental health care, who, if left alone to their own means, on the subways, in the streets, in the parks, are a danger to themselves and everyone else? And the bottom line is, they just don't care. Eric Adams doesn't care. Kathy Crime Wave Hochul doesn't care. Andrew Evil Eyes Cuomo doesn't care, because they don't have their boots on the ground. They don't have their finger on the pulse of the people of New York City, who have not come back, who are vacating this city, as fright leads to continued fleeing of what's taking place in the mass exodus to Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, Texas, and Tennessee. You're all disgraziata.